Okay, can you see the slides? Everything visible? Wonderful. What we're going to focus on during the next 15 minutes is leveraging open innovation for SMEs, and specifically how institutions could benefit from and support this regional growth. And I mentioned regional growth because this is where, SMEs are usually scattered. And then, we also have different types of collaborations across the borders and international projects, but usually companies that are part of them, they were in the first place invited by some of the local partners. So we usually start with this local collaboration. Joanna already offered like a brief introduction, so that's correct. I work primarily in Denmark. I'm also affiliated with UC Berkeley. And then the examples and experience I'm going to focus on, as well as research, is mostly going to be related to Denmark and different types of collaborations we've been having. All right, so that's the brief agenda for now. What is open innovation? And again, Maria already did a great job sharing some insights, so I'm going to build on that. Then open innovation in SMEs, it's different. What is different between SMEs and large companies? I'm going to share some practical examples, and this will be from the perspective of a business school, and especially my department, which is quite special, meaning that we actually value a lot collaboration with industry. And in the Danish landscape, we are known for establishing lots of new collaborations and really trying to push the regional development altogether. And at the end, I'm going to share some resources. So if you won't have enough of open innovation after 15 minutes, there's a lot more than you can use. Their activities you can join. And I also have like a little bonus for you I'm going to share later on in the chat. So you can all sort of leave with a little souvenir. All right, let's get started on open innovation. So here on the picture, you can see Professor Henry Chesper, Berkeley professor, my good friend and co-author. And, back in 2003, Henry coined the term open innovation. And then what he denoted by open innovation was this idea of purposeful flows of knowledge across organizational boundaries. And then, of course, back then it was Maria sharing the initial definition, how he looked into it and how it started with a firm perspective. And later on, this definition comes from 2014. That's the latest one. We agreed not to develop any more open innovation definitions. We don't need any improvement so far. But this is where we started to go a little bit broader. So not just companies, different types of organizations. And then initially the idea was to focus on money. So pecuniary benefits. How could we all be better in making money? But these days, we talk a lot more about grand challenges, circularity. So we would like to exchange knowledge also for other purposes and other reasons. By the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat. Just put them down and I'm going to get back to you at the Q&A session. And of course, you'll be very welcome to raise your hands and ask questions then. All right, there's several books published on open innovation, 2003, 2006, 2011, 14, and 19. And also the latest one, the Oxford Handbook of Open Innovation, published in 2024. And this is a co-edited work with myself, Henry Chesper, Wim van Havenbeke, and Joa West. And we have 137 contributors in this book, 57 chapters, 2 kilograms of knowledge on open innovation. Chapters are very, very short. So lots of topics we're going to discuss. I can assure you that we have a chapter on each of the single elements, like being crowdsourcing, open source, crowdfunding, and so on. So if you would like to get to know more about it, you're very welcome to get to the handbook and see the chapter, but there is something more, maybe a little bit easier way. How could you also find out about the content of these chapters? All right, what does this open innovation really mean, like in practice, right? It's a smart academic definition, exchanging the knowledge, purposeful, managed knowledge flows. It's like, okay, what does that mean for a company or for any other organization? So in the past, the way how companies operated and also what inspired Henry was that everything was closed, like everything was developed onto the closed doors of R&Ds. And then, in this research and development departments, there were some ideas. And of course, there was an innovation funnel. We had to select which ideas are the best, the most promising. We couldn't invest in all of these ideas. But what Henry started to realize, that time he was back at Harvard and he started to study lots of companies in Silicon Valley and other places in the US. And he realized that, there are some ideas that grow in the company and then they don't make it through the funnel. So companies decide that, oh no, this idea is not good enough. So we're not going to invest in it. We're not going to commercialize. We're not going to get it to the market. And then what he started to see is that sometimes companies would let these people, engineers, go with their ideas without any strings attached. And some of these ideas would be extremely successful, much more successful than the companies when they originated from itself. And this is where Henry started to coin open innovation and realize that, wait, but maybe we don't need to operate in this closed innovation paradigms, because ideas are getting outside of our organizational boundaries anyways. Maybe we can just acknowledge this, purposely manage, and maybe there will be more research conducted on this idea outside of our organization. But then closer to the market, maybe we would like to get this idea back. The same is related to ideas developed outside of our companies. Maybe it's okay that we don't develop all of the ideas ourselves, that they don't originate from our R&D departments, but they're developed by other organizations, and we just get them in at the different stages of development. And this is exactly what different types of organizations could do, and SMEs specifically, but we're going to get there very, very soon. All right, why practicing open innovation in comparison to the closed one? First of all, there could be new revenue streams coming from spin-offs, sales, divestiture, licensing. But they could be also a decrease of the cost and time to market. So we could be a lot faster, benefiting from the ideas coming from outside of our organizations. And of course, a very important part, sharing the risk. And this is still valid, and these are still reasons why many companies and organizations would be interested in pursuing open innovation. So this is how it looks like in regards to the innovation funnel. And of course, we have this beautiful terminology, inbound, outbound, and couple forms of open innovation, and the other one, inside out. So all of the ideas that come from inside and they are developed somewhere else, and then outside in. So all of the ideas that get into our organization from somewhere else. So what we're going to do now, as this has most relevance for our meeting today, we're going to focus on outside in open innovation. So these are different types of knowledge flows that get into our organization through these, dotted lines that you've just seen. All right. So the sources of this knowledge could be different, and Maria already pointed out some of them. Some of the most popular ones, this would be open source software, and then again, the possibility of multiple developers contributing to the code, and then also code being reviewed by multiple people. Crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, I'm not even getting into it. You already know a lot about it. IP licensing, university collaborations. This is something that we're going to spend a little bit more time on later on as well. Startup engagements, VC, corporate VC, supplier-driven innovation, and user innovation. All right, so before talking about open innovation SMEs and other types of open innovation, I would like to ask you a question. And then in order to answer, please use the chat. So the question I have to you is actually related to your experience about collaboration with SMEs. And my question is, what are the main challenges that you've been facing so far? All right. let's take this 2 minutes to put down the main challenges that you've been facing in this collaboration. I'm going to open the chat right now. Okay, I don't see any responses yet. Okay, I see Eva. All right, there's a trust, no trust, limited resources. SMEs not willing to share their knowledge. Oh, yes. Limited time to collaborate. IP not invented here. Oh, yes, that's a big problem. High effort required. Time constraints. Lack of openness to innovation. Thank you so much for sharing this. These are like really serious obstacles, and let's try to see how could we further work with them so that after the webinar you could actually come with some tangible sort of solutions or ideas. I see another one, no real focus on innovation. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Based on my studies or some of the studies with my co-authors, we actually realized that SMEs perceive innovation in a completely different way. So something that might be, considered as innovation by large companies might be completely different by SMEs. All right, let's get directly into it. All right. So open innovation in SMEs. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the differences in SMEs. So I think it was one of the colleagues that already mentioned that there are lots of SMEs, especially in Europe, and then some of the data that we looked into talk about over 90%. And then, of course, SMEs contribute significantly to job creation, so they create more or less 2/3 of jobs. But here's an important aspect: whenever we look into SMEs, there's a different perception, even classification of SMEs between US, EU, and China. And this should be taken with a grain of salt. So I've been mostly conducting studies on SMEs in Europe and China. But then in China, we've been usually looking into high-tech SMEs contributing to green transition. But then this means that these high-tech SMEs, this could be up to 500 employees, which means that, in the other countries, this will be already large companies. And these benefit from different types of policy changes and support and so on really, really greatly. But an important part is that whenever we talk about Europe, we have lots of companies that, might be like one employee or like even micro enterprises up to 5 or 10 employees. And there are like many, many, many of them. And then SMEs are very much different across different sizes. So there is a big diversity. In my studies, I mostly focus on low and medium tech and usually manufacturing SMEs, as these might need special support. But this part related to diversity of SMEs, this is one of the challenges that I've seen across different collaboration possibilities, but also studies. It's just difficult to say that, and propose one size that fits all of them. And then this diversity also make it challenging to draw some of the conclusions. But then this might be related to statistical conclusions. What I'm going to bring right now, so now I'm done with the statistics, I'm going to bring some results from qualitative research and then from the experience in working with SMEs. All right, so an important part that was noted like on the early stages of open innovation is that SMEs benefit from open innovation in a completely different way than large companies. And this is because SMEs are much more dependent on the external partners for their innovation performance. So if they would like to innovate, and by innovation here, I mean even customization. So even if they would like to improve their offerings, oftentimes they really need to rely on their partners. And here partners, these could be suppliers, this could be different types of collaborators that they have, could be intermediaries, could be universities. Oftentimes we talk about SMEs, which are family businesses. So this is an extended family network that they rely on. And then some of our research findings, and also that's confirmed by colleagues from other countries, is that actually open innovation activities are performed much more intensively in SMEs, usually in the area of seeking knowledge. And again, it doesn't mean that there are no challenges, because all of the challenges that you mentioned are very, very valid. But these activities might really, really range. And then there has to be some kind of culture, some kind of a path of developing good relationships. And then, of course, the biggest challenge is that we cannot easily benchmark what we know from large companies and just take these exams and say, oh, now we're going to do the same, but in SMEs. All right. So what are the differences between how large companies and SMEs do and practice open innovation? And what's important for us? So first of all, our research shows that the main source of innovation for manufacturing SMEs are actually suppliers. So these are suppliers coming up with different designs, with different ideas. And for Danish companies, oftentimes they're actually Eastern European suppliers that Danish SMEs, they really value the input and knowledge and productivity. And this is what helps them to innovate and scale up. Something that we also see in the research is that the most trusted partners for SMEs, at least in Denmark, are actually universities and knowledge-intensive institutions. SMEs also have high trust towards different types of intermediaries, and they gladly collaborate, join events, they're part of cluster activities and arrangements. And this is actually very important because look, SMEs oftentimes they actually express their concern related to collaboration with large firms when they would just say that large firms don't prioritize activities with them too high. Then they might switch the money and interest very, very quickly. And then they only dedicate very few resources, so it doesn't matter. But actually SMEs, they dedicate a lot. In every collaboration, oftentimes it's the CEO being involved, like lots of smart people, that they have to make decisions. Are we focusing on our core activity and supplying to our current customers? Or do we want to focus on innovation or doing something else? Do we have time for it? Do we have resources? Do we have money? Right? Money, that's another constraint. And you already mentioned that this is a big problem, that SMEs are usually pressured on money and on different types of resources. But this is actually the possibility or opportunity for them also to get resources from outside of the organizational boundaries. The last thing that I wanted to highlight is the employee mobility as an important source of knowledge. So this is where people who work for large companies come and work for SMEs, and suddenly they bring a lot of knowledge from elsewhere. And this transfer is kind of natural. And in the regional setup, actually something that we've observed is that there are large companies attracting skilled workforces to come, like highly skilled. But sometimes these people want to change, or they see some other topics being interested. And, you know, there might be a level of involvement for employees in large companies when they don't see any more development. They're not challenged enough. And this is what they might be interested in switching to SMEs, where you need more development of the company itself. All right, let's jump into practical examples of how we in Denmark work with SMEs. And then one thing that I wanted to highlight is that, and this is also very relevant for you, each of the organizations that you represent have different goals and objectives. And it's super crucial for the decision-making process or strategic planning of which activities to get involved, that you make sure that all of these activities support your strategic objectives. And some of the strategic objectives that we want to support in Denmark as university, as first of all research, then teaching, and then third is the employability of our graduates. So all of the activities that we perform, they're actually centered on these three areas, and either we would like them to support one of them, or ideally all. So this is where I'm going to also focus and explain which activities contribute where. All right, there are three groups of activities that I'm going to focus on. The first one is it's related to student projects with the industry. We have three types of projects that we get involved in. And then probably an important part to mention is that for type 2 and 3, there is a requirement for all of the students to get companies involved. And they decide. It can be SME, can be startup, can be large company. And then we actually see that about 25 to 30% of all of the companies being involved in our project, these are SMEs. But again, for number 1, so side projects to the courses, usually pass-fail. This is where we talk about group of students. And then oftentimes we talk about a professor who has an established collaboration or made their choices and invite companies to collaborate, or there might be even companies coming in and say that, oh, you know what, we will be happy to establish collaboration with the university. And these projects are the projects where the students decide the specific focus. And this is how they learn how to see what kind of challenges companies have. And these projects are all tailor-made for the company. So there might be like a general topic, which is like course of strategy. I'm teaching qualitative research methods. So I tell students that, you know, almost like sky is the limit. I just would like you to do a good project on the methodology side. You decide on the topic. And of course, please make sure you help the company. It could be like a small problem, right? So this is where SMEs are really nice and easy to collaborate, because usually they have like a set of urgent questions or issues where students could just come and help. And of course, students do it completely for free. And you get the supervisor as a quality assurance, kind of supporting the project. And this is what supports our university in the area of teaching. So this is where we would like to make sure that our students, they work not just with theories, but in real life problems. And this is how we teach them, starting from bachelor level, how they could help the local businesses. So how they could better understand what is happening in the business and provide the support. Next part, these are research projects. So we usually use the first one to get to know some of the companies better before we invite them for a very specific project. And as much as in the first section, it could be any company, regardless of what they do, manufacturing, service, big, very, very small, that's not a problem at all. When we talk about research projects, we would like to work with a very specific selected crowd. And either we have projects with budget for SMEs. I can tell this works best. But then usually this is the project where we work with action research. So really assume that there will be change that we implement in the company. And then we also have projects which are without the budget. But this is where the SMEs are usually a little bit bigger. And we oftentimes have a student, like a PhD student, spending some time of collecting the data. This might be a PhD student from our university, or maybe a visiting PhD student as part of the collaboration. And this is where person is developing like really in-depth insights for the company and also offers them a report. It's not exactly a consultancy work, but oftentimes I know that companies treat it as consultancy. And then the last one, probably most interesting, this is where we have municipality contracts and industry contracts. So this is something new that helps Danish universities to recruit high quality students. Universities like University of Southern Denmark, for instance, in Sønderborg, they just have, they discuss with companies what kind of skills companies from the region need and would like to see in students. And then the university asks the companies to commit for taking student workers, just to make sure that students from the very first semester of their studies, they can actually get an experience working for a company. And we talk about companies deciding how many students they could take. And then also we talk about the work for 10 to 15 hours a week. And this is a win-win both for the university and for the company, because after we talk about people being 21, 23, after 3 to 5 years of education, that they have 3 to 5 years of industry experience. And oftentimes we've seen that these people were hired by these companies. And this is also where I would see like a big role of intermediaries, of chambers of commerce, or different organizations that actually help in bridging these collaborations if the university doesn't have any programs or doesn't have this relationship being established. And this will be also a possibility for universities to test it in kind of a small group setup. So I'm not saying that, oh, you know, we have 300 students per year starting in the program. It would be a lot to have like 300 placements. But if you could make this one group of 20 students and see how could it work if you test with 20 students, like a closer collaboration with the industry, I think it might be something interesting for both universities, students, and also intermediary organizations, right? And this is how the better collaboration could be established with SMEs, and it could be done step by step. All right, so I'm going to finish now with the stuff that I wanted to share with you. I'll be open for questions. And my last slide actually concerned activities that I would like to invite you to join. So if you would like to hear more about open innovation activities, every Thursday at LinkedIn, we have LinkedIn Lives, and they concern each of the 57 chapters of the Oxford Handbook of Open Innovation. And we also have a recording of the chapter on open innovation SMEs. We have World Open Innovation Conference. So if you would like to join me and my colleagues, and if you have some cases of open innovation that you would like to discuss, it could be both positive and also negative cases. There's still a possibility to submit the abstract for practitioners. So we talk about practitioners' experience until June 16th. And then we're going to meet in at the beginning of November in California at Berkeley. Last one is the Open Innovation Seminar. So now we are in the holidays period, but if you would like to listen about open innovation, if you would like to talk about open innovation, I'm running a weekly open innovation seminar. It's via Zoom. So we meet every Monday. It's like 10 a.m. California time. It's 7 p.m. Warsaw time. And then from September to December, we discuss open innovation, both from the research perspective as well as practice. So this is where we have people coming from multiple backgrounds, multiple countries, multiple organizations, and then everyone can be part of the discussion. And of course, for the academics on the call, please join us in Chicago on our annual Open Innovation Workshop. All right, so that was it.